Hi everyone, this is Zach Schonkweiler, and this is episode 1 of the Ordinary Folk Podcast. A podcast where we just try to get ordinary folk together, talk about our lives, things we have going on with them, and just overall try to connect. This first episode sees a guest in my good and close friend, Josh Whitehead, who's sitting to the left of me. Josh, why don't you say hello?
Hello, how's it going?
Well, they're not going to respond. They can't hear you.
How is it going, Zach?
It's going great, thank you. Josh is in town from California, big ritzy place where people are better than everyone out in the Midwest, and they smell nicer, eat better food, and
That's a fact.
yeah, it's a fact. That's the fact. Jack, so yeah, we've just been hanging out with his time back in town, and yeah, talking about hanging out. Thought I had better stuff to say right now, but whatever. We'll keep rolling along. Oh man. So, Josh and I have been friends since, I would say, first friends when we were 14, 15 maybe.
Yeah, a long time.
Then you went off to the Career Center for a couple years, and I was like, well, he's fucking gone.
Yep. Was gone away from high school for about, 2 years, going to the Career Center. So, I don't know if we hung out too much while I was gone. I can't remember.
I think I saw you once, and it was while I was waiting for the school bus. And it was basically like seeing another ship pass in the night. It's like, well, there he is.
Well, there he goes.
There he goes. Bye-bye.
Yeah, I mean, I went to the Career Center for 2 years and came back to the high school basically just to get my diploma, and then ever since then I think we've kept in touch pretty good.
Yeah. And you pretty much joined the United States Marines right after finishing high school, like the year after, right?
Yeah, so I went. I didn't know what I wanted to be in life, so I went to the Career Center for design. Didn't know what I wanted to do, so I took some time off, and then I went to, what is it called? UC Raymond Walters College, community college, for design. I was doing pretty good, and then my instructor said that, I asked my instructor, like, hey, is there money in art? And
they said, of course!
No, he told me straight up, he said, no, you're never going to make money in art. I was like, oh, okay. Got kind of depressed, kind of bummed out. Always at least was interested in going to the military. Funny enough, I was playing Call of Duty one night, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the recruiter tomorrow. So I decided to go join the military January 1st, 2008. So New Year's Day, I decided I would join the military. So I next day, I basically went to a recruiter and signed up, and then I shipped out to boot camp later that year in May. Yeah, so that's that.
There's something else?
While I was in, I was doing a job as a photographer. So technically my job was it was a combat photographer, so I would have to go like in the middle of like, say, a combat scenario and take photos. Luckily, I never had to be in that type of environment. So I worked mainly in the state of North Carolina, taking historic photos, doing photo events and all types of stuff. But what I was mainly doing on the side was sharpening my design skills. So because basically I had a passion for that because I was learning Photoshop and stuff on the side. Making small flyers and just things for friends, like just for fun, was really interesting to me. So I just kept pursuing it and trying to learn as much as I could. Um, by the time I got out in 2013, I came back to Cincinnati, Ohio, where I was from, and I started freelancing and doing a bunch of like small jobs for relatively small clients. And then eventually I started getting more agency freelancing jobs. And then I eventually got a job at a local startup here in Cincinnati. From there, I got an offer to come out to California for another startup. Quickly took it, as I've always wanted to live in California. While I was at that startup, we had some funding issues. So we had a massive layoff, which was really scary, especially because I was out there on my own. I luckily quickly got a job at the company I'm at now, which I really love. It's called Saucey. We're a on-demand alcohol delivery service, sort of like Uber, but for alcohol. So we bring you any type of alcohol you could think of to your door in under 15, 20 minutes.
And this was actually all set up just to be an advertisement for Saucy. They are the spawn. No. As I'm sitting here, I'm actually sitting on a throne like the Iron Throne from Game of Thrones, but it's made out of like Bacardi bottles.
Yeah, it's great.
And wine.
You look great on it.
It's pretty fantastic. So yeah, so you pretty much, from what I understand, you do like user interface design there now is kind of like your main position.
Yeah, so the main thing I do is solve problems. Yeah, I guess the main thing that designers do in general is they solve problems. The main thing I do is I solve problems in terms of how somebody purchases alcohol. So how do we make it easier for them? How do we make the technology disappear to the point where they're not thinking about it? How do we make it so user friendly that they can be in and out of the app very quick? So I mainly, like most designers should strive to, is solve problems.
Yeah. Trying to think how I can follow up that very solid statement. Well, with the
I'm a professional.
I know, I can tell. I can tell. With the application, since it is a an item such as alcohol, or you do you can deliver cigarettes as well within the app. How does the identification process work? Do you have to set up like an account that ends up being verified via like ID numbers and things like that? Do they have to have like a scanned photo proof? What type of measures does Saucy take to prevent basically like illegal consumption or distribution?
Yeah, so we we first make the user verify all their information. They can do that two ways. They can either manually input it or sign in with Facebook, where it usually carries over all the information we need. But in order to actually receive the alcohol you are purchasing, when one of our drivers or couriers, as we like to call them, shows up to your door, we require whoever purchased the alcohol be present with their ID showing they are 21 years old. Once they have the ID, we have a back-end app that scans the ID to make sure they are 21. When the app signs off on it, we hand them over their order and the transaction's complete. So basically, it's pretty much foolproof. If you're placing the order, you're 21. If you're not getting your order, period.
Sounds pretty cool. It's a damn fine time to be alive.
Yeah,
At
that's
least,
right.
at least on the West Coast, not necessarily in the Midwest, where this apparently has not branched out to yet.
Yeah, West Coast, the lazy coast, one day. East Coast will get it. We got so many things out there where you don't even have to get off the couch. You can literally lay in bed and you can have breakfast delivered to you. And then by the time you're done eating breakfast, you can get a PlayStation 4 delivered to you within that same hour. Then by the time you're done beating The Last of Us, you can have like, your afternoon snack delivered to you, and by the end of the night you're already drinking with Saucey. Like it's crazy out there. You can
Pretty
have
crazy.
anything you want delivered to you. I love it.
So,
And then you can, if you do decide to leave, you don't even have to drive. You can just hail a
an
Uber
Uber.
or a Lyft, and then you can just sit in the back seat and sleep till you get there if you wanted to. I love it.
Okay, I'd like to see someone who lives in LA who literally has mastered never moving, like literally moving a muscle. I want to see someone who literally like just jumps on someone's back to like piggyback to the front door, get put into the Uber like a little baby, and then be driven to wherever. Person gets out, piggybacks them. Like even if they go into like a fancy little bouncy house or something, they're literally just like laying down and someone has to like jump and counterbalance them.
It's possible. There's a few apps called like Alfred and like Butler, stuff like that, where they will literally, for the most part, as long as it's legal, do anything you tell them to. So
Oh,
you can literally say, "Come in my house and clean it," and they will clean it. Obviously, you're paying for it, but I can, in some weird scenario, see you requesting all these weird things, and as long as it's relatively legal, I'm sure. I think they would oblige. I don't know.
and when he says you, he's not referring to me personally. He means just a general you. However, I would
No,
ask for.
I mean you.
Oh well, I'm not denying that. Uh, that is pretty interesting to think of. That I mean, it's not really surprising. That is the first time I've heard of those apps, but it's not surprising to me that that exists. I mean, and really, it's really a great way just to, I mean, get people to do crap around the house that you don't want to do, or just like, I don't know if you have some yard work that may be cheaper than hiring like the professional like lawn care services from like down the way or something like that. But it also brings up like an interesting discussion of what what is that fine line that people may or may not cross of things that they will do in terms of like apps like that where they're showing up at like people's houses that they don't know, and you know clean the house could turn into, hey, I actually also want you to wax my asshole.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll go down that road, and if it does, like there'll really be some probably legal repercussions, um, but it hasn't happened yet. I think the on-demand market is really fascinating, and it's just going to continue to grow once it expands to cities like Cincinnati, where I mean, since coming back from Los Angeles to Cincinnati, um, it's so bizarre to think that the things I take for granted out there don't exist here, and I can only imagine how much they're going to change lives when like on demand stuff like comes here. Like when you can, you know, have a laundry bag full of clothes outside your door and have somebody pick it up, clean it, fold it, and bring it back. Like because you can do that out in LA with a service called Washio. Services like Ship, you can literally just give this company your raw items that you're selling on eBay or Amazon, and they will go to the post office for you and ship it. Because everybody hates going to the post office. Stuff
Mhm.
like that. I mean, it's gonna be huge. Like once basically they can afford to bring it to mass market. Like, yeah, I mean, living in LA, I feel sometimes we're pretty spoiled out there. At least I feel like I'm spoiled. Like I literally go to work and sit at my desk and order food, and I don't even have to leave, and it's delivered to me, and like it's just the best.
Yeah, you guys are pretty spoiled. I recall being out there and you guys were having, and still are, last I checked, a water crisis. And the city of Los Angeles had just built a new park with water fountains.
Oh yeah, yeah,
It's a great use of taxpayer dollars during that crisis.
yeah, yeah. Just don't water your sidewalk, and don't take showers that are longer than 20 minutes, and I think you'll be okay.
I'd be done for. I have to I'd make sure I get it soaked into every pore. If I'm not at least like 100% like wrinkled in my fingertips, it's not a good shower.
Yeah, I mean that's why at my house we all shower as a family together. So just to save the environment. It's what Leo would want.
DiCaprio?
Yeah, like whenever I'm doing something, I think, does Leo want this?
Actually, he probably doesn't want too much anymore now that he won that Oscar.
Yeah, he's got the Oscar, so I think he's good.
Yeah, he's doing good. I think he. I mean,
I don't think he cares about the environment anymore.
Yeah, I think. I mean, that was all just a ploy just to win the Oscar,
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
that was another great.
I read it on the internet.
Yeah,
so.
I read it on the internet. I mean, it must be true.
Yeah,
I mean, another great act of his. Like,
yeah.
he likes to act around and all that stuff. Clearly,
he is an actor.
Yeah,
I think we're onto something.
I think we are onto something. Actually, this podcast just now turned into Leo Conspiracies 2016.
Yeah, hashtag that. Tweet him at that. Facebook like him and post him and poke him. Just
just poke him.
Just poke Leo.
Does anyone actually poke anymore? Actually, can we let's just change the subject to just useless features on extremely popular like applications and sites that are still there for some reason.
Oh, how about just Pinterest?
Pinterest, yeah. If you're not like a 40-year-old mother, get off of Pinterest.
Yeah, it was useful for a time. I mean, I'm sure whoever's listening to this, there's probably going to be a few people that completely disagree with me and you, and they're going to have like a million reasons why they love Pinterest and all this stuff. But like, I think there's far better tools out there that do exactly what Pinterest does, which is basically a glorified mood board, a place where you could put up a bunch of things you're interested in so you can like quickly glance and say like, that's cool, this is cool, like, and you can get a feeling, of what you're wanting to do in your personal project. I think there's better tools out there to do that. And Pinterest as a social networking platform, which it kind of launched as, I don't know if that's what they're still trying to do, is stupid. And poking is
poking,
and poking is stupid.
Poking is stupid. I remember when Facebook first came out, and that was like, I remember I hated Facebook because I was on MySpace. And Facebook wouldn't let me make my profile page look like an ugly piece of shit like MySpace would. And it wouldn't let me put Pantera songs on there. So right. I was like, fuck Facebook. This is for old people.
Yeah, who didn't love just going to a your friend's, landing page and then having it load for 10 minutes? I love that.
I loved it. It was great. I mean, realistically, if my cursor didn't turn into a glittery butterfly when I went to someone's page, it just made me go into a psychotic rage.
I remember back when I was super into MySpace, not only did I tell everybody, like, oh, I know HTML, like, but I didn't. But I remember all those MySpace pages that the only purpose they were there for were so you can get other like things for your MySpace.
Oh yeah, like they were just HTML code dumps. For tutorials.
Yeah, like there'd be like a wall of GIFs and a wall of like text for like how you can make your cursor different, and then a wall of like this for backgrounds and like that's interesting. I can't remember exactly how that was handled. Like, did you like right click it and then edit the page to find the code, or I can't remember.
Are you talking about in terms of like how to get it off the code dump pages?
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain that, the ones I remember, they actually had like little div text boxes, but they were set up so when you clicked in them to get all the stuff, it would be one of those automatic like copy things. Oh. It would be like scripted to automatically copy it.
Yeah, I don't remember. I do remember visiting them a lot and taking my page super serious.
I remember one time your page was like fucking insane in terms of like it was like I for some reason remember it like literally raining down shit like on cascading like on these cascading like different like tables and like layers and like all this shit. I also remember at one point you had like I
think you're right. I remember something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you had like an album, a photo gallery of every like music CD that you had.
I know I had that because I recently got access to my old MySpace account and I found all that stuff.
Oh, JT hooked you up with that?
Yeah, exactly. I talked to Tom and he was pretty cool about it. He still really runs things over there.
Uh,
Don't get it
you know
confused.
what? That guy made off with the sweet check from crap. Who did was it? I can't remember. Was it
I think AOL bought them.
AOL? That's right. Yeah, my first friend, my first e friend.
Yeah, your first e-friend. That's right. It was everybody's.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I immediately removed him from my friends list on that and went just down to 0. I was complacent enough.
One to 0.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not very different from my current life.
It's, I mean, it's funny thinking about MySpace because that really is like the first time I mean, I know I'm no HTML coder today, but whenever I actually was interested in it, that's where I learned from just trying to make my page look like stupid and overly like, just bedazzled. I'd put like, I would actually change it like probably every week.
Yeah, I mean, I got pretty into it to the point where, I mean, like you said, my page was doing all types of weird stuff. Like, so I would go on there and just like, it was kind of an obsession. Like,
Yeah.
I I don't doubt that MySpace had some role in getting me into technology the way I am today. It probably did in some form, because without, if I would have grew up just with Facebook where there's no really customization, I mean, who knows if I ever would have like dabbled in HTML when I was, I don't know, 13, 14, however old I was when MySpace came out. Like, I doubt I would have been just doing HTML on the side. Like, I was too busy playing Quake 3 Arena or whatever.
Yeah.
In the high school computers.
Yeah.
Because we all had like the hidden file like on basically every Mac in the entire school.
Yeah, it was like Quake 3 Arena Lite, so it was pretty undetectable in terms of its file size too.
Right.
That was, oh my gosh.
You remember that? Like, there was like literally Quake 3 Arena was literally like hidden in every Mac in the school, and then we would all just be like, "You want to play Quake?" And then like we'd go to whatever that file, wherever we stored it, we'd open it and play it like a giant LAN party within the school.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was weird though, because like you had to be careful about what teacher's class you were doing it in, because a lot, like, there were teachers that were like didn't care, or that, or they were oblivious to what it was and they thought it was just something pre-installed already.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get like one of the teachers that were no nonsense and actually gave a shit about being a teacher, and they were like, they were pissed.
I worked my whole life for this.
I worked my whole life for this. And then, yeah, then you're basically just, like, shitting on their whole career achievements because you just want to, shoot some fucking rockets.
Right. Yeah, I remember... Do you remember the computer room in the library? Like, there was, like, that long corridor with, like, just computers, like, within the library? Like...
Yeah, that's where my homeroom was senior year.
Oh, yeah?
That back little computer lab area.
Fun fact. I mean, this is kind of off topic in a way, but, like... I can remember the computer I was at. I can remember the time of day. I can remember every detail of that moment when I first saw the Halo 2 trailer.
I thought you were going to say something like, I remember where I was on 9/11.
9/11. I can tell you where I was on 9/11. I was in the computer lab at the junior high school, like... And I made a very bad joke about it when it happened because I didn't know. I mean, I was a kid and I didn't actually know what was going on.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, back to Halo 2. Back to Halo 2. Like, I remember sitting in the computer lab with like some like super shitty. It wasn't even a Mac yet. This computer, we were getting Macs, like the colorful, like translucent, like we were getting those in. But this particular computer, I didn't have very good internet connection. I didn't have... I mean, the computer was like really out of date feeling. And I watched the Halo 2 world premiere trailer or whatever. And it took like... I don't know, the trailer was maybe 2-3 minutes long, but it took about 10 minutes to load the thing. And it was driving me insane. Like, but I mean, we all know how that game turned out, and I was super jazzed about it at the time.
Yeah, I recall actually coming over to your house like the day or day after it came out. And, well, I couldn't find your house because we didn't have GPSs then, and my grandpa didn't know where the hell your road was. So we passed it like 3 times, came back home, and I had to call you and get new directions. And then when I finally showed up, everyone who showed up for like the Halo 2 party had like left, except for you and one other guy.
That's right.
And then I sat there for like 2 hours and played it. And it was awesome. And then I'm pretty sure I begged my parents to buy me an Xbox after that.
Well, let's talk about like because I think it's interesting because you just said you didn't have GPS, and then I got to thinking how we were kind of like the first generation that grew up without technology and with technology.
Yeah, it was a nice half and half. So we knew how to. Oh, I feel most of us know how to appreciate it in our generation. Most, well, 25%, 15% know how to
10,
appreciate it. 10.
5 probably.
5%.
Just keep
5%.
going down.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I remember before, the internet and every kid had a cell phone and all of that, like waking up, going outside, spending all day outside until like literally the street lights were on and then coming inside and just doing that over and over. And then like I think then I got like a PlayStation, yeah. And then I was like fascinated with staying inside and playing video games. And then all of a sudden we got a family computer. And it really didn't do anything but play video games. Like Monster Jam or something is what I think I played. And then all of a sudden we got AOL internet. And then it was just, off to the races. Like
Well, it was dial up, so it wasn't exactly off to the races. It was like, hey, let's load up the races, come back after dinner, and maybe half will be done.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and ever since, yeah, I wonder what the first. You ever wonder what when you logged in the internet to the very, very first time, what you went to? I mean, beyond probably it was probably like an AOL splash page, or you went to Google. Like, what was the first thing you're like, man, I have to check this out?
I'm honestly trying to think, and I'm having a hard time remembering. It, despite like what some people may joke about, it wasn't like boobs or anything like that. Uh, I, it's hard. I honestly, I was really infatuated with like WWF
Mm-hmm.
and just like wrestling like that in WCW. So I honestly think like when I first got my hands onto the internet, I think I just looked up like wrestling stuff. I think I was like looking up like WWF like I don't know, action figures actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was just trying to find out sites where I could find these action figures that like Toys R Us didn't have, like Kane or like Shawn Michaels and things like that.
Yeah, I can see that. I might have been right there with you. I remember being so fat, like so enamored with, I mean, the WCW, WWF like feud, and especially the whole, what was the whole Hulk Hogan was the bad guy for a little bit, the Wolfpack
NWO.
or NWO.
Yeah, Wolfpack was like the offshoot from that, and then there was the LWO.
I mean, that was
but
like
yeah.
the golden days of wrestling. Like,
Yeah, the Monday Night Wars and the Attitude Era.
yeah, like so if I went on the internet when I was little, probably the first thing I did look up was probably wrestling or Generation X or Stone Cold Steve Austin. I remember in what was it? It was like 5th or 6th grade, one of the two. We were all drawing like or coloring Thanksgiving turkeys, and you had to make like it was a blank canvas. Here's a turkey. Draw whatever you want on it. And my turkey, I made him look like the Steve Austin. I put his little vest on. It said 316, and I put a belt on the turkey. And I was so fucking proud of that turkey. I was like, because we put them all in the hallway, and I was like, man, that's my turkey. And the next day I came in, and it was missing. And I went to my teacher, Mr. Boffman, and I was like, my turkey's gone. somebody took my turkey. Where's my turkey? And he played dumb. He was like, "Oh, I don't know. Like, what happened to your turkey? I can't. I don't. Oh man, I guess it got stolen."
Who steals like a cardboard cutout turkey or whatever?
Right? Yeah, exactly. I later found out that my turkey won Turkey of, I don't know, the fucking year award or some shit. Like it won an award for being the best turkey, and I was like pretty jazzed about that. I hope I have that somewhere still.
That'd be pretty fucking cool. That's actually I don't. I'm just trying to like think of was it like the hand turkey, or was it like an actual like real like legit like turkey?
No, it was a legit like it was literally like a coloring book blank canvas turkey.
Okay.
It was a turkey standing at like an angle, like a side, and he was kind of like looking at you over his shoulder, and then and then it was on a blank white piece of paper, and they were just like, draw whatever you want. Most people just colored the turkey in, and I was like, no, that I see Steve Austin when I look at that turkey.
So you just imagine that turkey on Thanksgiving Day. It's just like, you're preaching your mashed potatoes, your casseroles. Well, Turkey 316 says you're going to take a nap.
What?
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 Or gobble.
Gobble, gobble.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean,
that was the time, though. Like,
it was the time. I remember being on the playground, and I mean, I might have told you this story before. I can't remember, but like,
we'll tell everybody else.
Yeah, I guess I'll tell it. But they used to do this thing where they used to say Generation X, and then they would say "suck it."
Yeah.
Yeah, right? And then they would do this like motion with an X towards their crotch.
Let me guess, you did it to somebody and no bad came of it.
Well, kind of. I remember me and this guy I used to be friends with named Jimmy Jackson, and a guy I knew called named Adam Bujo. And I'm not sure why I gave out their full names, but but whatever.
Being pretty discreet up until now.
Yeah, but whatever. They're about 5'8", 210, medium height, gray hair.
Great, yep.
They were fucking old.
They were like, I was hanging out with geriatric old men.
Yeah, but
tell them to suck it.
But we were all like super into wrestling, especially WWF, and like whatever reason, we took Generation X and we turned it into Generation Parallel, which basically turned the arms from an X to like, you know, a parallel, and then we would quickly do this thrusting motion like towards our crotch, like, you know, and then we'd say suck it, suck it.
Keep in mind, most kids at this age didn't know what suck it meant.
No, it was literally, we were just, you know, copying our idols. Like, we were just like, these guys, you know, literally were defeating these very large, intimidating people all by the power of their suckets. And, and we were just like so infatuated with them that we just repeated and basically enhanced upon their techniques. So we were kind of pioneers, actually.
Yeah.
Because we started doing Generation Parallel, which we were saying, suck it. And then all of a sudden, I can't remember which wrestler, but they stopped doing the X and they started doing the Parallel. And we were pretty happy with that. We felt like they
got the message. Like, they saw what you were doing, they approved.
Like, make wrestling great again. Hashtag.
Yeah.
Hashtag that.
I also do want to say something, and I didn't want to point this out because I want to see how many times you'd say it before I correct you, but it's actually D-Generation X.
Oh,
like degenerate in generation. So, you know, just in case, you know, the one person who ends up listening to this decides to start typing up that angry, like, comment, I just want to let them know that I already took care of it for them. And
well, actually, it is generation. No, I'm just kidding. They get super pissed. Like, oh my god!
It's bullshit.
He corrected him and he didn't accept it.
Shawn Michaels is in the goddamn Hall of Fame. You pieces of shit, have some respect.
Rest in peace, Shawn Michaels.
He's still alive, dude. He can still super kick like the greats. I actually, I'm probably not gonna go, but I think he's gonna be at a convention in Indianapolis, and it was like $50 to get a picture with him, and I almost debated like going like just Mo and I and Mo being my girlfriend for those at home, uh, and going and asking him to super kick me, like just to do it and like just get a video from an angle so I could like sell it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought about it so hard, but then I was like, you know what? That's like $50 that I really could use to pay off all my crippling debt. It's already super kicking me metaphorically.
Right.
So, but I would I'd like to see that guy. He's man, he's probably my favorite wrestler of all time. Like him and Stone Cold are probably my two tops, with The Rock in like a very close third place.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, I've been thinking about especially old wrestling. Like, I mean, what they would consider old wrestling now, but like what I consider the best wrestling, which was basically the NWO and like Steve Austin and Mick Foley and
Oh God, yeah.
yeah, all that whole era, I think was like the golden standard for like wrestling entertainment. It was and Vince McMahon, like he was an actual like full blown like cartoon character basically.
Yeah.
Like he was the super villain. Um, but like I've been thinking a lot about who my probably favorite wrestler of all time is, and I think it's Steve Austin. Like
He changed the game in a lot of ways.
yeah, I mean like I love The Rock like simply because he's like super charismatic and like he's funny and he says like all the right things when they need to be said. But like The Rock, like I've been going back and recently watching like just old stuff he does, and it's so like it's so good. Like
Yeah.
I watched a scene last night actually where The Rock goes and like or not The Rock, where Vince McMahon's in the hospital and Stone Cold like surprises him as one of the nurses and like forces him into like a prostate exam and like Vince McMahon's like screaming for his life. But like the chemistry between Vince McMahon and Stone Cold was like I don't know. It felt like it was the height of what that I guess sport became.
Mm-hmm.
Like I feel like it's like you don't have anybody like I mean you look back then and there was like an easy 10 to 15 guys you were just like jazzed about like oh like that dude's awesome, that
Mm-hmm.
dude's awesome, that like now it's like who you got John Cena, you got Stardust, I know him, and then they bank on The Rock or The Undertaker coming back like at WrestleMania.
Well, you know, I don't watch it as avidly as I did when I was a kid, so I can't speak. I'm sure there's people out there who watch it like every Monday, every Thursday. I don't know. They don't have like a Sunday night heat thing anymore. I don't think. I think it is just two times a week. You know, I'm sure someone's losing their mind right now. Be like, no, like, duh.
This guy's
The Saturday morning too. Actually, there was a Saturday morning one too, but it wasn't film Saturday morning. It would just come on like an air Saturday mornings. It was like one of the, I think it was like I can't remember what it was called. That and Sunday Night Heat, from what I recall, were more like what NXT is now. Which NXT, from what I've seen of over the past like year or two, is really great because that's like all their like up and comers, and that's actually where guys like have you seen Neville?
No.
Oh man, I'll show you after we're done doing this dumb podcast. I'll show you what's up with Neville. There's guys like Neville. Oh, New Day. New Day is great. Xavier Woods, Big E, and Kofi Kingston, and they're fantastic. They're great. Like that's actually they're bringing back stables. They haven't had the stables, which is basically that's the term for like the team, the big team.
Yeah.
Um, so they're actually starting to have stable factions now again. They have a faction called the Outcasts, which they basically just took like a bunch of characters that no one really liked or cared about, and now they're the social outcasts. That's like their thing, but now everyone actually is interested because of that. I don't know. They're starting to actually like push people who are good. Finally, it seems like, and
Yeah, I admittedly have not watched wrestling in years, so I mean my point of view might be from a grumpy and old 28-year-old male. Like
oh, well, you still have a right to be because it's not perfect. There's still a bunch of stuff, namely, you know, for whatever reason, with much respect, I must say, Triple H keeps deciding to get back in the ring
Oh, he does keep
Yeah.
jumping in.
Well, he's the new. I mean, him and Steph.
He's the new Vince.
Yeah, him and Stephanie are basically the new Vinces. They're the bad guys, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with Roman Reigns, but he's the Rock. He's related to the Rock. He's the Rock's cousin. I don't think it's been brought up in a storyline or anything.
He actually in real
Yeah,
life is
in real
related.
life, yes.
Oh,
He's
that's
even got
cool.
he's even got like a huge like really badass Samoan tattoo all down his arm and like by like chest and everything. But he's super cool. He's very like ideal looking in his physique. But he basically won like the title, and then through some bullshit of the storyline, Triple H won it back from him, which is basically a summary of what Triple H does to everybody. He just has to be in the spotlight. It seems like.
I actually saw a great video about that where he was, man, who was it by? Was it by Mac? Maybe it was by Max Landis. I can't. It was by Max Landis. Where,
What, Triple H?
yeah, where he talks about basically how like Triple H was never the guy, and he always like um, rose on the back of everyone else's successes, and then he would like screw him over somehow. Like I don't know, it was fascinating, but it was
I'll check
basically
that
all
out.
about how Triple H was he was the promise to the fans of this guy's like the new he's gonna be the champion, and he could never be the like I think he was teaming up with Shawn Michaels,
Mm-hmm.
and then they had a fallout, and then like Triple H was like on the decline, and he needed Shawn Michaels, so they got back together, and then like he got Shawn Michaels or Triple H screwed over Shawn Michaels in the like it was really cool. It was really
Interesting. I'll have
fascinating.
to check that out. I'll have to check that out.
The
Yeah.
the WWE podcast.
Yeah, this is. I feel like this turned into the WWE podcast, and now like we have like people who are like following us through like talking about technology and stuff. Now it's like, all right, I gotta get
Yeah,
I
like
gotta go get out of there.
when are you guys gonna start talking about AI?
AI, yeah. Well, I mean, we kind of got on this topic because
That's a great segue so far. Like
I mean,
WWE to
to
I guess
AI.
AI.
Yes, it
That makes
honestly
sense. I guess
one of Haley Joel Osment's best works, bar none.
Yeah, I mean, give that kid an Oscar.
More importantly, give me one of those teddy bears because that thing was cool as hell.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't want a super creepy robotic teddy bear?
Hey, there's nothing creepy about it. The thing was cool.
I guess.
Whatever. But yeah, we got on this because we were talking about the first thing that we ever looked at on the internet, and we both decided,
Went on this wrestling tangent.
we get turned into wrestling because I guess that's really what it came down to as a kid. I went outside. I came back inside to watch wrestling. I played with my wrestling toys, and I went to sleep and then went to school the next day, talked to my friends about wrestling. And actually, I forgot to bring this up, but in a similar thing with your with you, Adam, and Jimmy doing the Suckets, when I was in 5th grade, I lived in Evansville, Indiana at the time. And wrestling was super big there. Like everyone, like almost every boy was wearing like some sort of wrestling shirt every day. Whether it was DX or whether it was like Stone Cold or, for whatever reason, if someone was wearing like, I don't know. I was trying to think of someone who like no one really liked, but realistically only made the shirts for people liked anyway. But basically, me and this other kid kind of like didn't like each other. And we were out on the playground, and basically I just told him to suck it, like in front of like this girl that I really like, because I thought I'd be like, oh man, she totally is gonna understand this esoteric reference, be like, oh man, he just told him to suck it, he's so cool, just like Shawn Michaels, I want to date him. And that's how I thought it was gonna go in my head.
Yeah, I mean that's natural.
I'm natural. I mean, it's not my fault she didn't get it. Turns out the guy who didn't like me decided to get back at me for saying suck it to him and embarrassing him in front of the girl because he liked her too. Next thing you know, I'm getting called into the counselor's office, and she's asking me if I know what suck it means, and I unconfidently told her no. I do not know what suck it means. And then she said something to the effect of, it means something sexual.
Oh boy.
And I got the phone call home, and my mother was pissed.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't say that in school, especially nowadays. I can only
Oh god.
imagine.
No, you basically get labeled as a what is it?
A pedophile.
As a pedophile or a sexual offender or something like that. Some sort of blanket term that where you get lumped in with people who are way worse than something you did.
Yeah, I mean, I know all types of kids that are getting charges brought up against them for saying similar things. I know a lot of kids at my schools are registered pedophiles. It's sad. I mean, my kid goes to school every day with monsters, basically. I
Oh,
mean, they say at my school, my kid's school, it's like 8 out of 9 kids are pedophiles. It's crazy. It's like literally every kid you see is a pedophile.
the sad thing is I can't tell. I know you're joking, but for a half second because it's like 2:30 in the morning, and for a split second I thought I was trying to like
You gave me
pinpoint.
that look. Like, are you serious?
I was trying to pinpoint exactly what you were talking about because I kind of like was watching the levels on the monitor to make sure our voice isn't blowing out anybody's ear holes, and then I'm like, for a second there, it's like, he's joking, right? There's no way that that Gunner's going to school with kids that are old enough to be labeled a pedophile. What type of advanced shit is he on?
Yeah, I'm not joking though.
You know what? I got two
Yeah.
words for you. Fuck you.
Yeah, you gave me that look. Like, are you serious right now? And then you started like doing the math in your head. Like
Yeah.
8 out of 9. That's like
Well,
literally everybody.
well, I thought for a second there, I thought I was like Philip Seymour Hoffman in that one movie where like he sees his daughter as like a kid, and then for whatever reason he turns around, she's like a adult hooker, and it turns out he's got like Alzheimer's. I was like, maybe I just have Alzheimer's, and maybe he's an adult now in college.
Yeah, that got dark. I've never seen that movie.
Yeah, that's what it is. I think I may have spoiled it if anyone hasn't already seen that. I don't know what the name is, but hey, that's what happens. And actually, you know what? It's like 10 years old.
Yeah, so you didn't spoil it because nobody knows what movie you just spoiled.
Yeah, probably not.
Like, because they don't know the name. I have no idea what you're referring to.
Yeah, well, it's a movie, and it's
Definitely a movie.
Oh,
You sit down and things move on screen.
this is true. Moving pictures. Um, just thinking about me thinking that was serious.
Just doing a professional podcast here,
Professional
people.
podcast. I've done this millions of times. You thought we were gone, didn't you?
Well, we're back. It's the sequel.
It's the sequel.
No takes, no jump cuts here. That might have sounded like one, but we didn't cut it all. We just didn't have anything to say. So, do you have anything you would like to talk about, or should I come up with the topic? Is this?
Oh no, we're still rolling. We're still rolling perfectly right now. Because we still have a lot of technology to talk about.
Oh, we have
because it's shaped our lives pretty greatly. I mean, obviously it's been stated that you're a graphic designer. I went to school for graphic design as well. But it's like we were talking about video games and how that really is kind of a gateway in a good and a bad way because, like you said, it did kind of evolve from us kind of being outside all the time during the day and then coming inside, eating dinner, whatever, doing homework, and going to sleep, do it over again next day. And then video games came along, and then it became like, get everything out of the way. I've got to go inside. I've got to master this. I've got to get to the end of the story. And that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember literally every day being outside, climbing trees, playing football. I mean, every single day from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed, being outside. Then one day, I found that we had a old NES system in a box in our basement without nobody telling me, and I was super jazzed about it. Put it in, or I plugged it up to a TV, got it working, and played my very first video game I ever played, which I think for most people our age was probably the same thing, and that was Super Mario Brothers. Plugged it up, put Super Mario Brothers in, turned it on, and I was a plumber. I was transported into that world. I was
And you could tell it was like plumbing.
yes,
Easily.
yes. I was from that point on. I would say I have been obsessed with. I don't want to just say video games, but like I'll just say interactive entertainment of. I guess that's video games, but like basically since then I have been constantly obsessed with that medium. Like to the point where I remember with that system, I mean, for the first week to a month, we kept it down in the basement to a TV, and because you couldn't like save games, you would just leave the system running all night and just turn off the TV so nobody knew, and then you would come back the next day and you would be in the same spot. Like I mean, I was obsessed with video games from that point on, and it only got worse with each new system coming out. So I think the next system I owned was the Genesis, and then the next system I owned was the very first PS1, and then the Xbox, and then so on and so on. But like those systems basically formed my childhood. Like it went from outside all day to inside all day to then like realizing I'm manipulating things on a screen with my hands, and then computers came along in my life and it was like the same type of fascination. Like I'm doing this on a screen, like I'm telling this machine what to do, and I felt like that was super powerful, like like feeling for me, since like I wasn't obviously like the captain of my football team, or I didn't have like all these outlets that some of the other kids in my school had. Like they had their, popularity and their football teams and basketball teams. I had my technology. I had the thing that I had complete control over. And like I found power in it, and it was super exciting. And I think our whole generation grew up kind of feeling the same way. Like it was basically no technology to learning technology to mastering it and then to creating it. Like, because right now our generation has been responsible for creating everything that past and future generations are going to be using. Like I'm pretty sure probably most of the people that came up with the iPhone, like at least like say like the way it functions and stuff, probably were basically people that grew up with technology in some way. Like, well, I mean that's kind of goes without saying, I guess, but
I think it's safe to say that people who are chefs grew up with food somehow.
you know, you're probably onto something, but I don't want you to go out on a limb too much.
I know.
But yeah, I mean, I guess the point I was trying to make before I sounded like an idiot was basically that I think our generation had a nice medium of no technology to being fully immersed in it the way we currently are. And I can't even imagine what like our future or current children are going to be creating or just grow up having. Like we grew up in a time where nobody had cell phones that did anything but make a call. Then we saw the introduction of like I remember getting a cell phone that had the big thing it had, the big feature was it had Google Maps on it. It was a slider phone with a horrible screen, and I just thought it was the coolest thing in the world that I can like say like, look, that's where we are right now. Like I would literally like be like show people that and they would be blown away. And then we went from those slow transitions to now phones. I mean, you got to think the iPhone, the first iPhone came out in 2007. That's not that long ago. And look how far technology has came, at least in the mobile space since then. Like we've got phones that are so much more advanced than we had in say 2006, the year before the iPhone. like phones, at least that medium changed so dramatic in 2007 and affected so many people's lives. I mean, even mine, obviously, as I'm making iPhone and Android apps to this day, like that's what I'm doing. But I mean, I just think our generation is kind of special because we got to see both sides of it. Like somebody like my son, he's growing up in technology, so I can't imagine how. I mean, he is going to live like when he's older. Like what exists when he's like my age now.
Well, he's actually just gonna grow up to be an iPhone.
Yeah, I mean that's. I mean, I can't say too much, but that's what we're working on. I mean, shit. I said it. My investors. They're gonna kill me. We'll just delete that, right?
Yeah, I'll get it in post.
Yeah, okay. Like, because we can't. I can't let people know that they're gonna be iPhones in 2028.
I know this. The apps though, the apps sound so.
Yeah, the
it's
apps
all-
are all in your eyes.
Oh god.
Yeah, so you just see the apps. Like,
Oh man.
I mean, it's gonna be crazy, but just
Crazy.
go ahead and delete that whenever.
Yeah, it's gonna be right out. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Yeah. Wink, wink. That's how you close apps. Shh. Shh. Don't tell anybody that.
um. Like, well, speaking of your kid, like, I mean, how big of a part does technology play in his life, like percentage wise?
Oh, huge. Like he. So this is why I'm so fascinated with how he's going to live, because from the time he was able to sit up by himself, not crawl necessarily, not walk especially, but the time he was able to sit up upright by himself, we put an iPad in his hand just to see what he can do, and he was like, sure enough, learning at that young of an age how to operate an iPad. So like unlocking, finding app icons, and he would play like a very simple game of like you would squish bugs on a screen. Like so they would fly around and he would tap it and they would get squished. Like he would play those games. So I mean, his earliest memories are memories of technology, and like even to this day it's only gotten more invasive in his life. Like I mean, he's growing up where, I mean, all you have to do is say Xbox record that and it records video game footage for you. He has my phone and he knows how to operate it almost as equally as well as I know how to operate it. I just started letting him learn how to basically do Photoshop on my computer, and surprisingly, he's picking it up pretty well. Like he's learning at a rate that I think it took us a little bit longer to, because it was still like so everything was so rough around the edges, and now it's everything's like so refined and getting better all the time very quickly, and that's the world he grows up in. So that's why I can't wrap my head around basically what his life is going to be like in 2030, like when he's a lot, or say just when he's my age. I'm 28 now. What does technology look like when he's 28? I mean, our big thing that we have right now is like iPhones and Apple Watches and iPads, and we're just now getting VR. Like, is VR going to be like everywhere, or is it just going to be one of those things that like we thought was going to be huge, but it wound up, not being like 3D TV, and wound up not being that thing that basically everybody had to have. So yeah, I'm super fascinated with basically the world he's gonna live in, like how that looks.
Now, do you think? Well, as a parent, this is going to be interesting. This is an interesting question. I would think is there are a lot of people who believe that technology has been more harmful than helpful to mankind. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think that the do you think that the more more integration of technology into our lives is just the natural step in like a, I guess, human evolutionary step, to so to speak, or do you think that maybe to a degree it has kind of like, I don't know, maybe hindered us in some way? Now, obviously, selfies hindered us completely, 100%.
Um, yeah, I think just the species that we are, just as humans, basically, we are basically defined by our technology. All we have done since we've been on this planet is create technology, and that's not silicon, that's not computers or chips. I'm talking about making things better than how they currently are. From creating the wheel to fire to the toothbrush to cars, to planes. All these things are technological jumps that improve lives. Now, today, with kids growing up with technology, my personal opinion is it's kind of just the next phase or step in basically humanity. You can't escape technology. It's there. It's just how life is now. You grow up with it and you improve it. My kid growing up with technology, the only thing it hinders him is him possibly wanting to stay inside more than he maybe should. Maybe he should go outside and play more. I think that's where my job as a parent is to say, put down the iPad, go outside with your friends, interact with them. But I don't think technology is a bad thing. Like, technology has done nothing but improve my life. Like, 100%. If I didn't have, I mean, yeah, if technology, like, didn't exist how it does now, like where there's iPhone apps where you can order alcohol, and there's, Facebook where you can keep in contact with your, distant friends or relatives. If all that didn't exist, I don't know what, like, I would be doing with my life. Like, technology is basically, in terms of, like mobile apps and stuff like that, like it or design, like if that stuff didn't exist, I don't know what I would be doing. And all I see technology doing is opening up more paths for kids like me, like where they didn't have an outlet, like I don't want to say skateboarding, but like say basketball or football or a poetry club or an art club or whatever. They didn't have those outlets. That's where I think people like myself like thrive in. Like it's like the same thing with like you hear Tony Hawk talking about how he talks about skateboarding. Like, he didn't have the outlets that like the kids on the basketball team and stuff did. But the second he started skateboarding, like things clicked for him. Like, this is he felt like this was for him. Like, this is what I should be doing. And the same thing for me happens with technology. And I think it's going to help out a lot of kids just like myself in terms of improving things for the better. I don't know if that's exactly what you're asking, but just in terms of my son, I do not think technology is a hindrance to his mental development. I think it's only a positive one. To summarize that.
No, that's exactly what I was asking. And, who knows? Maybe there'll be a nice new age MySpace where they can learn their, whatever the hypertext markup language is on by that point, or whatever may have surpassed it, and they can bedazzle the shit out of their personal profile pages.
JT's bringing MySpace back, so...
Yeah, dude, maybe he'll have some of that VR MySpace profile pages so we can see all the blingies and stuff, like, in our irises.
That's what HoloLens is for. You're just going to walk around and it's be GIFs all over.
No, that is the future.
That is the future.
future.